Well, welcome back. Back in January of this year, horticulture as a collective industry sat down, tried to work out what are we going to do for the coming season, how are we going to have enough pickers for harvest, what's winter pruning going to look like, are those asparagus and strawberry growers going to be able to pick their crops come spring. What we didn't know was that we'd have COVID, and that has just changed everything. And with that incredible change, there's been a lot of uncertainty. And if you're a farmer or a grower, uncertainty is one of the worst things you can have. It not only keeps you awake at night, but it makes you wonder if you're planting vegetables, should I plant all my paddocks? Should I only plant some of my paddocks? It makes you wonder if you're a kiwi fruit grower, should I lay down all my canes? As an apple grower, should I pick all my apples? Can I pick all my apples? So one of the things we've got to deal with going forward, and deal with it really quickly, is uncertainty. And so we've been talking about redeploying New Zealanders into our primary sector, and we're going to do everything we can to make that work. But what we need to do is have certainty that there will be labour. And that comes back to offshore labour that may come from the Pacific and elsewhere around the world. For example, the wine that's made in New Zealand is made by about 50 to 100 people who come from the Northern Hemisphere who are experts at making wine. And then if you come into the actual harvest, a lot of that work is done from people from the Pacific. And meat processing, Surma, also relies on Pacific labour to quite a high degree. So there is going to be that reliance on some offshore labour. We don't know how we're going to get it, but that doesn't mean we ain't going to have Kiwis. In our seasonal workforce in horticulture and viticulture, over 50% is Kiwis. The rest is made up from offshore. But Suma, can you talk about your reliance on the offshore labour for the processes?
Yeah, certainly. Well, just before, let me just make it, absolutely clear. We are very committed to finding roles for New Zealanders, and New Zealanders first and foremost. That is our starting point, and we go to great extents and great efforts to recruit domestically to fill the positions that we have. As I said earlier in the seminar and the sessions that we've had, there are a host of opportunities throughout the meat processing and exporting sector, from entry-level positions right throughout. And all those opportunities, they are available for anyone that is willing to step up and give it a go. However, there are some specialist roles where we simply cannot recruit domestically for, because the people that we're recruiting for either have very specialist skills, or in one particular segment have some specific religious attributes that, unlike knife skills, we cannot train for. And I'm referring here to halal slaughterers, halal process workers. They make up a very small percentage of our overall workforce, but they contribute significantly to the profitability and vitality of the sector. So just to give you some statistics, overall in New Zealand, we employ about 250 halal workers. That is just about 1% of our total workforce. From those 250, we could probably, at a push, find or employ about half of them, 150 odd, domestically, and we are left with a shortfall that we simply have to recruit internationally for, because we cannot find those specific skill sets here in New Zealand. And this is not just us not trying. If I can just reflect on our recent recruitment drive, we went out over a 4-week period recruiting in all the major centres in New Zealand. We received 46 applications. Of those 46, 23 went through to the selection process, and then we whittled those down in terms of technical skills, religious attributes, and the likes, to 6 candidates. Of those 6 candidates, only 2 were willing to move away from their current place of abode or residence. So, it's very difficult to fill those roles domestically, and we certainly have to look internationally. So that's for halal workers, and that's a very specialist skill set. In terms, Mike, you mentioned Pacifica workers. We have about 1,000 odd Pacifica workers that are a fundamental part of our processing sector, and that is because these workers are very skilled. They come into New Zealand year on year and have developed strong expertise and skill sets on the jobs that they do. There are also those that support the training, the on-the-job training, and there are also those that support additional shifts to be run. For example, 10 migrant labourers support a shift of 70 plus night shift workers to actually operate. So it does, there is certainly a role, and it's a very important role in terms of the productivity and efficiency of our plants.
And Minister, we're very appreciative that the government pre-COVID has really supported our ability to access workers from offshore, be they skilled, as we've just been talking about for meat processing, or be they people who supplement the New Zealand workforce. But what we've got today is we've got a whole lot of stranded people in New Zealand, and stranded because they just can't get home. And we don't really know how many people we have, but out of those stranded people, there may be the potential for them to supplement the Kiwis that we're redeploying. So Minister, my question for you is, with these stranded people, what we in the primary sector would really appreciate is some visa flexibility so that we can pick them up so they can pay their rent and feed themselves. But, the concept we're working on is Kiwis first and using the stranded workers with visa flexibility to supplement that workforce. It's a bit like we're filling up the water tank, which is another one of my favourite pastimes in terms of water storage being important, but the analogy of filling up the water tank with the potential to use stranded workers to supplement Kiwi workers, but turning the tap on and off. So, Minister, we're very interested in how we can make this happen and make it happen soon.
Well, Mike, we have done that, and you should know, and you should be explaining to the horticultural sector the new requirements around the visas. And so we've replaced 6 work visas with 1 to make it a lot more simple to apply. There are 9,000 people stranded in the country. Either their countries don't want to take them back at this stage, and so they are available. Of the 14,400 exactly, I think, RSE workers that we normally get in, there's about 9,000 of them still here. And so there's flexibility that we've made the changes, and you should be explaining to people. So there's
we certainly are, Minister.
Is it?
Yeah.
And so, we're very aware of the ability to utilise. There has normally been a stand-down period, so that when workers, they have to go out for a certain period, that's been eliminated. So we understand the realities there. Better to utilise those people who are here, not put them at risk by either going out of the country and coming back in, not put ourselves at risk, and try and plug those gaps. But as everyone has said, we're focusing on the Kiwis to fill those jobs because it's probably a more sustainable solution long term. But of course, the people who are here, and there are, as I say, many others outside the RSE scheme who are on visitor permits, and they will have access to, the right to work across. And in the area of tourism, of course, those opportunities probably won't be there. And these are the people we can pull across into the primary sectors to plug those gaps.
No, and certainly, Minister, we are explaining that, but I thought it was really important that you explained that this is the government's position to allow that flexibility, which is really important for us to go forward. But, as I've explained, we're not talking about supplanting New Zealanders, we're talking about supplementing the New Zealanders. But Jeff, can you just bring in a dairy aspect on this, please?
Sure. From the dairy point of view, we have around about 15% of our workforce, or about 5,000 farm staff out there who are on work visas. and they range from pretty highly skilled down to mid-skilled, maybe mid to low skilled. But those people who are in that higher skilled end have become very, very important parts of farm businesses and of communities. They've got families, they're well ensconced in the country, and they've been here for a long time. Those people are invaluable to our industry, and we just cannot replace them. We cannot replace them within a year. 2 years is going to be a struggle. 3 years is still going to be hard. So getting those sort of skills into our workforce will take time. We're working hard on it with all the players around the table, but it is a real challenge. And I believe that, as I mentioned earlier, the regional economies that have relied on a lot of this migrant labour are thin labour markets. We haven't yet really seen unemployment peak to the sort of levels that were forecast, and I suspect that some of those labour markets will not have that surplus of people round as was expected, simply because their regional economies are largely based on the primary sector, which has been an essential part of the country and has continued to demand workers or require workers to get crops picked or to milk cows. So from the dairy farmer's point of view, there's a very tricky transition period that we're trying to manage now in terms of building skills to manage the risk of those higher skilled people leaving. At the same time, I guess, as employers, we need to be responsible. Look, we absolutely 100% believe that we should be putting New Zealanders first, but we need to be responsible as business owners, I guess, and try and manage risk as well. So we need to think about different ways of doing things and how we might make the job more attractive, manage people better, all those sort of things. So it's not a one issue resolution here. There's a range of things that we need to do, but those temporary work visas, temporary workers are a really important part of our sector.
And I think we have that appreciation. And so from my point of view and from the primary sector's point of view, since COVID, Minister, we've seen a very close integration with government, your officials and us, working these problems through. We've got action teams set up so that we can keep meeting the demand. And that new working relationship is really working well. But we're getting to the end of the session, and so can we just have closing remarks from each of you, and I'll let you, Minister, have the last word. It'd be only fair. So Surma first, Jeff, and then the Minister.
Well, in terms of closing remarks, just like to reiterate that there are real opportunities in the meat industry right along the entire processing line and into management. We are working very hard to develop the on-the-job training pipeline to support new workers coming into the industry. We also have some apprenticeships as well as some scholarships for postgraduate and undergraduate students, which might be of interest to some. So there are opportunities. It is a good area to work in terms of your career development and training and upskilling. We do have some challenges that we're aware of, and we are very much focused on addressing those challenges and working with the Ministry for Primary Industries and others to look at practical options and solutions to overcoming those challenges. And I guess in closing, I'd like to extend a thank you to the Minister and to his officials for the work that they're doing to attract more New Zealanders into the primary industries. That's certainly a very important step in this endeavour that we're all facing to bring in more people into our industry. We are committed to it, and we're looking at supplementing that work with a meat sector-specific campaign and work program to really focus on those roles that we need and bring people into the meat processing and exporting sector.
Jeff, and you'll have to be slightly quick.
Look, I'd like Sue, I'd just actually acknowledge the work that is going on in government and the flexibility that has been demonstrated. Yeah, this is a big challenge. No one designs rules and regulations for pandemics, so everyone's learning quickly. But yeah, I do just need to leave the audience and our speakers with the impression that these migrant workers are a very important source of labour for the dairy sector. Kiwis first, absolutely, but as Mike talks about, it's about supplementing the workforce where it's needed to do the job that's needed.
And so what we've got in the primary sector is an amazing nexus where we've all got the same issues and we're all working for the same solutions and being aided by the government. So, Minister, yours is the last word, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Look, can I firstly acknowledge the flexibility and the innovation across the primary sectors? If you'd said pre-COVID that we needed to kill all the stock, get all the harvest, the grapes and everything in a totally different environment of social distancing, many people would have said it can't be done. We did it. We've done it successfully. We've not contributed in any way to the spread of COVID, and we've got all those crops in, we've got those animals killed and the export earnings. And what I say now is that I know we'll get through this because I think Kiwi farmers, processors are the most innovative and smart in the world, and we will adapt. It's going to be a challenge. I think everyone across every part of our economy in some way has been affected by COVID. We can't just expect to do the same things in a different world. Everything has changed. And so whether it's employing some young person on your farm to milk cows, don't leave them in the shed for 4 hours. Make sure that they get a couple of hours and then can get out and look around. I think, there's a new generation of Kiwis who have different aspirations. They want to go to the top job straight away. But let's just acknowledge that and then provide perhaps a different pathway than we did in the past. My father got people to pull ragwort for half a day. I mean, mind-numbing stuff. It wasn't smart. People don't hang around if we ask them to do things like that. I know that we can get through this, and government's committed to work with you who have shown that you can be flexible too.
Look, thank you, Minister. Thank you, Sima. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Fieldays, for the opportunity to bring this topic, which is so important to our future success, to air.